Okay, so today's session we are doing on giving an importance of performance testing point of view. The reason for this is whenever it comes to hackathon, we have seen participants are so much immersed in creating something new as a project. They are really interested to make things work. Sometimes what will happen is whatever you're creating, it has a life of its own that will have to be accessed by multiple people, or sometimes you may want to pursue it and take it forward and do as a full-fledged project and maybe deploy it and have it accessed by everyone else. So beyond the hackathon, if you're thinking. So once you have that perspective, once you already have something like that as a possibility, it's really important to think about how you can test your project, how you can test your a project which you've built out so that it can withstand any additional load you're going to get. So most of the time when hackathon starts, people are working on a project, they hardly think about doing any testing of their software or a project. So their only focus will be to make things work end to end. They just see only the happy path when things are working. There could be plenty of test cases where things are not working or any negative test cases. To be an example, if you say user ID should have 8 characters, you never know if you're giving a junk value or if you're giving a numerical value, will that still be accepted? So that's the premises. What we're trying to emphasize on is to test your project. It's also to performance test your project. So the difference between the testing and performance testing is, let's talk about that. So before we move forward to the slides, I just want to give a quick introduction about myself. So I'm an international performance testing expert. I have a 15 years of IT experience. I work as a QA and a performance architect in one of the reputed companies. So apart from this, I also do technical writing. I am also a speaker in the events. So recently I've started judging hackathons. So this is going to be my fourth hackathon where I'm participating as a speaker as well as a judge. So apart from that, I have founded a association called American Association of IT Professionals. You can find that in LinkedIn. So usually any webinars or any exchange of technical topics we normally do there. So that's being said, I want to come back to the topic. So the reason why hackathon projects have to be tested or especially performance tested is so it's all built in a very short duration and it's really impressive. Full-fledged project can be built in a couple of days with few people, but there are aspects of it. If you have not taken care of it really well, it might break. Or when you want to take this project and make it available for a larger audience, imagine tens of people accessing it at the same time. So how it's going to behave? Chances are it may not sustain that load and it might fail. So that is the situation we want to avoid. So performance testing as a concept by in itself means your application is able to handle the load. It is able to respond as per the expectation with any predefined SLAs. So when you go to the actual projects, you will have a lot more specific SLAs, SLA meaning service level agreements. Imagine if you go to any page today or you use any application, you really want things to load in 2 seconds. Anything more than 3 or 4 seconds, you don't have a patience to wait for it and you will just either close it or you move on to something else. So that's the importance of having your application built out in a way that can sustain multiple users and can still serve them. So irrespective of how good your application is, how brilliantly it is built out, how great it is visually, if it cannot serve or if it cannot be accessed by everyone, multiple users at a time, then it's not going to be of much use, right? You'll start getting all the negative comments. So that's the thing we are trying to avoid. I would say always try to keep some time in your project, especially at the end, for testing your application and also performance testing your application. And whenever you submit your hackathon project, also mention what level of testing you have done and how stable your system is. So that's going to add an additional pointer and going to give you a bounty points for making sure what you have built is stable. right? Just to give a little bit more insight into performance testing, in the actual world, when we say performance testing, there are a couple of tests we do to make sure it's all working fine. First one, as you see, is a smoke test. That's basically just to test initially with one user and see if everything is working end to end. A load test is actually when you're expecting, let's say, 10 people to use your system at a time. And you try to simulate a condition when 10 people are actually using and see how well you're able to handle it if there are any performance lag. The other one is spike test. So there could be any incident where suddenly you will see instead of 10, 20 people accessing it. So that's a spike. So you really want to test to that condition too and make sure it's all good. Duration is one other test where we run the test for a very long duration, couple of hours or more, just to see how the entire application is able to handle a prolonged traffic coming in. So that's will usually uncover any memory related issues you have in your application. And at last, it's a failover. So when you have a system deployed into production or your full-fledged people are using it, if server fails for any such reason, usually a failover condition is built out, like a backup server will be there to serve. So here we simulate to make sure that actual failover is happening and no one is getting impacted. So this is what happens in real world. This is how we do performance testing and engineering in the actual projects. So I just wanted to give a glimpse of how actually the approach is for performance testing. So let's move on. So let's understand why we actually need to performance test, right? Or can we get away with it without doing anything? There are a few things you're actually trying to target and make sure it works well with performance testing. The first one being the responsiveness. So when so many people are using your application, are you able to even give a response back? You could be running a backend API to fetch a data. So if 10 people are actually sending message for the same API, how quickly you can access them, or is there a possibility of multi-threading? So responsiveness is the first benefit of you doing performance testing. And the next thing would be a speed. So that's going to definitely tell you how quickly you can bring back the information or your screens, right? So that's give you a lot of confidence to go in front of the larger audience and have your system or have your application shown to everyone, then everyone can access it. You will be confident that the speed is there. So people are going to get a response back without any issues. The third thing is reliability. You really have to be more reliable as an application or a product you have built. If you have inconsistency, sometimes people are getting a good experience and some days people are not getting a good experience. Chances are you will lose people, or will lose interest, you will lose the customers, right? So your application should be reliable over a period of time. So that's something we're going to make sure with performance testing. And at last, scalability. So imagine today when you go and open gates for the entire world, you might expect 10 people will use your application or whatever product you've built. Imagine a situation, it catches up, it becomes viral, or people are more interested, and suddenly you have 20, 30, hundreds of people accessing your application. For example, dev post where we all are collaborating, or the Discord server, or be it Google, or Amazon, anything. So you have hundreds and thousands of people accessing it at the same time. So with performance testing, you know where exactly you stand with your current infrastructure. So you have an opportunity to scale it based on your actual need. So performance testing is actually serving you all this and giving you confidence to go in front of the whole world, right? So how do you actually even do performance testing, or how do you even approach this? So when it comes to an actual like a real world companies, there are many paid tools or licensed tools which is much more sophisticated to do this. But for today's hackathon condition, I would like to present a couple of options which you can make use. This doesn't have any cost associated. Most of them are open source, so you can just go ahead and use it as is. So the first thing is a Lighthouse tool. This is built by Google initially. This is an open source automated tool. So if you know how to click the button, you will be able to, run this Lighthouse tool against the application you built. So the basic idea is this tool will scan your application and it will tell you the areas where the performance is not so great or your tool is not doing so well, and how can you improvise on that also, and how can you fix them, right? So a typical Lighthouse report would look like this. As you can see, it has a performance score, accessibility score, best practice SEO, and progressive web app score. So the more focus can be on performance and also on the accessibility side. Accessibility is basically people these days who are not like very fit. They may have vision problem, they may have a speech problem, they may have a hearing problem. They are still using your application or going through them. So how well it is able to serve them as well. So that's the accessibility score, right? So this Lighthouse tool, I would like to actually show to you as a demo so that you get a good grasp of it. The very first thing, there are two ways to do it. One, you can have it as a plugin. Just go to your Google and search for Chrome Lighthouse extension. You will land up in the very first option. And this is what you're looking for, the Lighthouse. You can install it. Since I already have it, I have it in my list of extensions. Another way to do it is directly from a developer tool. So let me show you the other way. So this is our association webpage, which we have built out. So let's take this for an example for also being safe. So Lighthouse, you see here, you click on generate report, it starts generating the report. But let's do the tougher way where you are actually accessing it from the developer tool. So what you would do is just right click. You have an option in Chrome for an inspect. The moment you do it, you will start seeing the elements you are dealing with in your application. So there, if you go for further options, you have an option for Lighthouse. You click on it, that gives you an option to analyze your page. And you can also select whether you want your device you're accessing simulating from a mobile or a desktop. So that way you can see if it's a mobile application, how it's the performance. And if you do not want to any categories to be tested, you can unselect them. But most of the hackathon projects, what I've seen is they're not really deployed into production, or they are really not deployed into any servers. So they are built from their local machine. So this also provides the Lighthouse tool can be executed in your local built out application also. So take example for this localhost 3000. So Grafana is something I've installed. So similar to any of your app which you have built, which is not completely into the open world yet, you can still do your test with this. So let's try for this and let's do end to end. So let's do a desktop and analyze this page. So what it is actually doing is the Lighthouse tool is going through each and every component you have in your application, and it is trying to bombard that with a different set of actions. So then it tries to audit end to end and try to figure out whether your application is built to a good standards or not. And there could be some references like imaging or so where you would have improvement opportunity. So let's take this report now. So this has a performance score of 46, SEO of 37. And again, keep an eye on SEO. It's a search engine optimization. What it does is it tells you how good is your application to be found when you go and launch it. So if there's an opportunity to improvise on the score of SEO, definitely do that, because that will bring you more organic traffic, right? So let's look at this. Now you see we have a performance score of 46%. So let's see what really happening to this application which is built. So here you can actually look into the ways estimated savings time, right? It is giving you an option that you can enable a text compression, and you can pretty much save this much time of loading So when your application is loading, if it is taking a huge amount of time to load, you can pretty much save this much time by making sure your text compression is enabled. If you really don't know where and how to do it, there's a additional drill down or a link where it gives you an exact information of what really the compression is happening, right? So you can go as much deeper as possible. If you really want to understand this concept as a whole, as in what is a text compression, there's a more option. The moment you click it, you will be directed to this page. It has a lot of extended documentation. It will first explain you what does the text compression means and how you will be able to, make your compression work well. So this will give you a good understanding in the exact code what you can fix, right? So this is like a pure gold if you're building out a project from scratch. So let's look into some other options. See, there are some properly sized images. So you can pretty much, if you resize them, you can have a potential saving of 2 seconds. Like you can save 2 seconds worth of loading time each time this is getting loaded. And it will give you the exact image source. You can go and start implementing this resizing images for that. So basically, the more you go through it, you will understand. But these are all the very easy fixes you can do, and some diagnostic related information. Whatever is marked in red, at least give a thought, give a couple of minutes, see if you can fix it very easily. There are a few things which can be done much more quickly. There are some network payloads which are happening. You can pretty much resize them. The downloading is happening from this is way too much. You can save them. So that way you can load your application faster, right? So this is one way of looking into your website performance. I would also show you, let's say if you have an option to take this and deploy it in cloud or anywhere these days, be it Azure or cloud providers like AWS, Oracle. They all give you a free tier, and they also have some web hosting freely you can do up to a certain amount and time. So let's say if your application you built, you're already moved into cloud, and something like this, an application is up and running, then you can, if it is easily accessible through a web URL, do not have any firewall or anything, then there is a web page called web page test. So this pretty much, you just give your endpoint URL that will run an audit against your web page. So again, for the purpose of demonstration, let's take the aittp.org application, which is I have created. So now you have a couple of options, whether you want to go desktop or you want to go mobile. You can select different browsers combinations. Let's take a standard one, like let's take a desktop from US and Chrome, and let's see how the test results would look like. So again, whatever I'm showing you right now do not require any subscription. Don't even require you to create an account. So you can use this as is without having any issues. Okay. So that will be much more easier, quicker. Even if you spare 30 minutes of your time for doing tests like this, in your hackathon, you can attach a report, or you can show at the end that these are the tests done and this much stable it is, whatever I've built. So I can confidently take this to, XYZ number of users, and all will get a good response back. So that is what we are aiming for at this point. Okay, so let's wait for this test to get completed. It won't take much time. Done. So you see it is giving you some performance summary. It's going to give you some good metric, right? At high level, is it quick? Somewhere in between. Is it usable? Somewhere in between. Is it resilient? Somewhere in between. You can definitely go through and understand exactly what it all means. But here is what you may be interested more about. So let's take this waterfall approach, right? So this will tell you each and every request which is getting done or components you have. and how much time it is taking for each of them. Let's look at this. This is taking 5,000, about 5 seconds to complete, right? So now we know exactly what is the problem or which objects are causing high level of time for your page to load. So this is one thing you can see. If it is an opportunity there for you to fix it, you can definitely take an action to fix them, right? Similarly, it will give you all possible requests, at least at the very high level, and at the network level, like a connection view. So again, very specific URLs are very specific, a sub URL where how much time it is taking, CPU is consuming. So this is give you also the content type. So look at these images which we are using. So it is taking more time to start and load. So you see opportunities wherever you feel it can be compressed, resized, changed, you can take action, right? So now we spoke about two things. One is through the Lighthouse. This is the second one, which is just a URL. You can go and test your performance of your web page. Again, this should be readily outside, deployed and available. If you do not have it, make use of what I showed you as Lighthouse. So I'm going to talk about one more concept. Okay, let me go back to this. Yeah, this is one another tool which is like a superstar in performance testing. So let's say so far what we checked was how a single page performance can be improvised. So if you remember, initially I talked about a possibility of 10 people testing your application, how much time it, how much performance resilient your system would be. So Blazemeter is one such tool. It has a free tier. I'm going to show it to you, where you can actually go and check your system performance against multiple users. Okay, so let's go back and let me show you that too. So again, Blazemeter can be installed from the Chrome. We just go and search for Blazemeter Chrome extension. You will land up here, add it into your extension, and here it is, the Blazemeter. So I have created a project because it will keep track of how well I'm doing. Over a period of time, it will keep track of my performance of the tests I'm doing. So let me do a quick recording. Here you can see you can record your step. It started recording. So I'm already here. I'm just going to refresh so that it can record. And let me just go to a couple of tabs. Okay, and that's it. So I'm trying to simplify. So what I've done is I've recorded my action in Blazemeter across 3 steps. Okay, so there are 3 options. So a couple of them are functional. Let's do a performance test. Okay, so now what it is doing is it is creating a performance test for us, and it is going to launch. So we will just yeah, so a new tab would open, and that will show you what test it is actually running. So this in by itself is creating a test with 20 users for you, and it is going to run the test for those 3 screens which we recorded, and it is going to tell you for 20 users how well your screen is doing. So you will get to know how much time it is taking to load. Now we are talking about creating the same load across multiple users. So now what you're actually trying to do is whatever you have created, you're trying to run 20 different users at a time. You can go beyond this. Since it's a free tier, there are some user restrictions, but 20 is good enough for hackathon projects. If you're really interested, tools like HP Performance Center or Load Runner, Micro Focus Load Runner, those are all professional ones. It will let you test for hundreds and thousands of users. There are some free trial. If you really want to make use of it, you can always go. and check it. But for now, for hackathon purpose, if you really want to make use of anything, this is good enough for you. And again, it's going to generate load from one specific location. And yep. Let's progress. Yeah, so since it has to create, load across multiple users, it has to connect with a load generator, which does the work and in some certain location. And whatever recording we did first, it has to convert it as a script, and that's how it will be able to run it. Okay, so I think it should start in any moment now. We'll just give 2 more minutes. It should be start running for us. While we wait for this, do any one of you have any questions? We can, if there is something, we can definitely talk about it. Okay, so we can see here our test is started. You see, we are getting some response times. And we can see the tests are going through. And you can see here how the 20 user load is getting built up. And as the users goes up, how much response it is taking. So usually this test will go on for some time, but you will always have the ability to stop it wherever you feel like. So now we are constantly running 20 users from last couple of minutes, you can see. And you can also see how much hits we are giving on the system. So the response time, as you can see, it's fluctuating. There are times it is taking about 800 milliseconds. There are times it is taking 100 milliseconds. So it's all depends on the how robust your system is, how application is built. Okay. So there are a couple of information you can analyze based on the users and how much hits you are getting on your system. And if there are any logs which are getting generated, so far we don't have any errors. So we don't have anything listed here. And this is the engine health, the CPU and memory, whatever, wherever the request is coming from. So let's stop this test. So I would say gracefully shut down. What it does is if there are any active requests, it will slowly stop them. It won't stop abruptly. But if you want to stop as is, then you can just go and shut down abruptly. That will be closing it. So now you can see it provided you with some results, right? So this is one such login, and then it's the first page, and this is the second page. You can see how much response time we are getting, right? So maximum response time, bandwidth, how much hits it took, 98th percentile. So this will help you to understand with 20 users using your application, how well or how good is your system behaving overall. So again, as I showed, we used hardly a couple of minutes to run this and record. Within 30 minutes, we demoed 3 different tools. So if you can actually take time, keep like 15, 20 minutes or 30 minutes of your time in the hackathon for testing your application, that's going to add a lot of credibility and also give you more insight into what you're built. And this input is very important because you will take this and whatever you're fixing here for performance, in future, you will be making sure that those are also in your best practices. So in future, whenever you build any new projects, you're always making sure you're building up to a great standard. So that's at high level. And I just want to give a couple of takeaways from this session for you all. First thing is always test your application for performance. Even if it's hackathon or outside, make sure it is good enough for people to access it. And also think about negative testing. Always when we build something, we have something very specific, focused. My app should work with XYZ in a way, but there are plenty of negative cases where it shouldn't work. So make sure those are also you're testing it. And also test for more than one user. Your whatever application you build is not for one person to access it. When you go out and show this to the entire world, there'll be plenty of people who would like to check it out. So make sure concurrent users, at least 20 or 30 users, are able to access it without any problem. And there are some Google Analytics. That's a different whole topic in itself. So you can have a piece of code snippet added into your application where Google can connect and talk and start capturing some metrics. So Google can provide some analytics by itself. So you make use of that as well. So that way, over a period of time, you see where the traffic is coming. Is it organic traffic? Who is your demographic? Whether it's what age group they are using. So that level of information you can get from analytics. So you can make use of that as well. We are just about time. I just want to see if there are any open questions. Okay, if there are none, then that's great. I hope this was helpful. I just want to say thank you for the speaker opportunity. And this is my LinkedIn handle. I would love to have a professional connection. Feel free to send me a connect request. If you still need any further help or any information regarding to the topic which we spoke, I would definitely share more information on that. And I would try to take this and upload it into a YouTube channel. So whoever couldn't attend because you're busy with Hackathon, you can still access it in later times. So that's being said, thank you so much for your time. It was wonderful connecting, and all the best for the Hackathon.